This would be great. Oh my God. Can you imagine? This is real. This is real. Yes. Get him. Get him. It's a wonderful day in the homiehood. A wonderful day for a homie. Won't you be my homie to Taro? So, as everybody knows, Donald Trump is getting arrested today. At least we are hoping. The person who has told us that this is true is Donald Trump himself, who tweeted it out, or sorry, not tweeted it out, truthered it out on Truth Social. So New York City is bracing for Trump indictment after ex-president urges protests. And the funny part about this is potentially that people don't really care. This is not going to be a January 6th event by the looks of it. A lot of his supporters are saying, you know what? It costs a lot of money to get to New York and protest. It's a very expensive city to go and spend a lot of money just so I can probably get arrested, if not killed, at the hands of police, as some people did during the January 6th riot. So, former President Donald Trump's calls for protests ahead of his anticipated indictment in New York have generated mostly muted reactions from supporters, with some of his most ardent loyalists dismissing the idea as a waste of time or a law enforcement trap. So they don't even trust Donald Trump anymore. They are like, well, he might be leading us into a trap where we're going to get arrested. And as I said, he's probably going to make bail, right? Like if he does get arrested, he's going to be freed pretty quickly after, most likely. I'm not even really sure how the law system works in New York, but I'm pretty sure he's going to make bail. So Ali Alexander, who is an organizer of the Stop the Steal movement, staged rallies to promote Mr. Trump's baseless claims that Democrats stole the 2020 election from him, warned Trump supporters that they would be jailed or worse if they protested in New York. I think the worst is suggesting that they would maybe die. You have no liberty or rights there, he tweeted. One of Mr. Alexander's allies in the Stop the Steal campaign was conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. I love how that's his official title. He is a conspiracy theorist who amplified the election fraud claims on his InfoWars show. Mr. Alexander posted that he had spoken to Mr. Jones and said that neither of them would be protesting this time around. We've got enough going on fighting the government, Mr. Alexander wrote. No billionaire is covering our bills. I love how they are expecting someone to cover their bills. It's like, well, where's Daddy Trump footing the bill for your ridiculous, allegations of election fraud? I guess he never showed up. I think people have genuinely started distrusting Trump because they've gone so far for him, and he's never once kind of like reciprocated or bailed out his own supporters, because as it turns out, he's only looking out for numero uno. He doesn't even like his own children. So what is the idea that he would bail out one of his protesters? How many feds/the Fed assets are in place to turn protest against the political arrest of President Trump into violence? Tweeted Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. So even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is like a Trump fanatic, and a Trump loyalist, is like, this is a op. This is an op, and they're going to just arrest us and do the violence against us. Which is kind of interesting to see this level of suspicion towards the police from people on the far right. That's something we haven't really witnessed up until this point. John Scott Railton, senior researcher at Citizen Lab who has tracked the Stop the Steal movement online, said anxiety over being entrapped by so-called agent provocateurs feeds a paranoia that if they go and do violence, they may get caught and there may be consequences. So I love that their paranoia has finally sunk to a point where they are completely immobilized and unwilling to do anything. which is fantastic. That's what we can hope out of the conspiracy theory crowd, is that they will be so paranoid that they just stay home, keep their tinfoil hat on in their basements, and never leave the house. I wish they could extend this courtesy to protesting drag story time. It seems to reduce a lot of people's willingness to make big statements about being willing to go out and engage in violence. Thank goodness. Grand jury is investigating hush money payments to women who alleged sexual encounters with Mr. Trump. I know about Stormy Daniels, who is the famous like porn star who I guess Donald Trump paid money to I don't know what they were keeping hush about. Maybe they were just keeping quiet about the fact that they had a relationship, right? Because Mr. Trump, Donald, is a married man. I mean, like, it's crazy to me that like the Christian fundamentalists like support this man who has clearly had extramarital affairs, but I guess they don't care. They're willing to look past that because this is their attempt to gain power. But yeah, so very strange. I guess there's multiple women. We are mostly talking about Stormy Daniels in social media though. Maybe he used taxpayer funds for that, or misused campaign funds for the hush money. Maybe. I don't know why, but his lawyer is in prison for this, right? Wasn't Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, had to take the hit for this because he didn't want Trump to go down? So I don't really know what the hush money is for, or why it's illegal. Maybe it's illegal in general to just pay people to get them to shut up. I don't really know. Is paying money to your affair to keep quiet a criminal charge? Yeah, that's what I'm kind of curious about. House Republicans on Monday wrote to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg seeking documents related to his inquiry, which they called an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority. The other thing a lot of people are comparing this to is how Al Capone went down for like not filing his taxes or something, right? Because Al Capone probably committed many murders, was the leader of a crime syndicate, but they had trouble getting any evidence on him. And eventually they just arrested him for like tax fraud or something like that. Now, the same is kind of true for Donald Trump, that he's incited this insurrection. He's probably done several crimes that constitute treason, but they don't really have the concrete evidence. So they are bringing him in on this hush money payments to porn stars, which is just kind of like hilarious, right? So Mike Pence, who is expected to challenge Mr. Trump for the Republican nomination, castigated Mr. Trump in an ABC interview this weekend as reckless for his actions on January 6th. And if you don't know, one of the calls for the January 6th rioters were to kill and hang former Vice President Mike Pence for not stopping the steal, which would have stopped essentially Joe Biden from being inaugurated as the new president. Now, really ridiculous if you think about how much they are on the same side of the culture war, that they would have this notion to kill Mike Pence. Now, there is an interview here. It's probably really boring, but I tried to find the part that is relevant to this.
As I travel around the country, people are very concerned.
I'm already bored. The volume is really low as well.
About the politicization that we've seen at the Justice Department during the Trump-Pence administration.
There's no way this man will be president because he's uniquely uninteresting.
We saw FBI's agents that were falsifying documents to obtain search warrants. We found about politics driving decision at the highest level. And again, in New York City, I have to look, no one's above the law.
No one's above the law.
But when you have the Attorney General campaign on a promise to get a particular American indicted.
A particular American. He's the former president. Like, he's not just like a random citizen.
and you have other Democrat officials that pledge the same. This is not equal justice before the law. This looks like the criminalization of politics, and the American people aren't having it.
But he would have a right to defend himself.
Oh my God. ABC, why did they, how come these are so improperly mic'd? Or is Mike Pence just a soft speaker? The discrepancy between their volumes is horrible.
And to be heard by a jury of his peers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, don't you have faith in that system? Whatever you may think about the prosecution, he's got a
not illegal, but Clinton got impeached for lying about a BJ. That is true.
chance to defend himself.
I have no doubt that President Trump knows how to take care of himself, and he will. But that doesn't make it right to have a politically charged prosecution of a former president of the United States of America. I mean, look.
Okay, so essentially what's happening here is Mike Pence is threading this needle because obviously if he wants to be president, which he does, his main competitor is going to be Donald Trump. So inside, he's probably like, yes, Trump is getting arrested, but on the outside, because it's not enough for him to just be mean to Donald Trump, he has to be nice in order to win Donald Trump's voting base over to him. And, you know, he's not the only one doing it. Here we have another whole ABC article about video with just like a panel discussion of people saying Mike Pence is walking a fine line between the party and Trump, you know, and oh my God, there's that guy.
Investigation into funds.
But
that's all he can do, John.
This is the definition of weaponization. I mean, to weaponize.
So they're saying, I don't know what, they're weaponizing the law against Donald Trump in a political way.
And to go after a DA for doing his job. The DA is following the law. This is about.
Okay, so maybe she's saying the opposite, that they're weaponizing this against the DA.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, well, of course, we don't know anything. But,
right,
but the point is, he has said openly that he's going to follow the law. This is about the law, and we'll see. And the one thing he has said to his credit, he said, I will do my part in the court, not, you know, on TV. But look, this is a.
Okay, she's talking about the DA there, I assume. And yeah, more from Mike Pence here.
President of the United States is deeply troubling to me, as it is to tens of millions of Americans, and particularly happening in what appears.
It's deeply troubling to him. He's like dancing on the inside.
To be a politically charged environment in New York, where the Attorney General and other elected officials literally campaigned on a pledge to prosecute the former president.
I don't understand why that matters. Anyways, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, an expected GOP presidential candidate who is the main competitor to Trump, he's basically favorited by the Republican establishment because to him, he's much more of a competent fascist than Donald Trump is, you know, just someone who is purely narcissistic. So Ron DeSantis is favorited by, you know, the Republican base. You can tell in so much as even people like Ben Shapiro have rallied around Ron DeSantis, even though he is, again, just like Mike Pence, a uniquely boring motherfucker. What I can speak to is this is Ron DeSantis here. What I can't speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use something about porn star hush money payments, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. So I mean, we don't know what he's talking about here, but again, Ron DeSantis is
not announced if he's
extremely
running for
boring.
president, but he did take a shot at Republican campaign finance fraud. He's being accused of paying hush money to adults in Florida. A news reporter asked DeSantis today his thoughts on the Trump situation. DeSantis criticized a Manhattan district attorney.
What? I don't know what reporting this is. This is WMBB News.
Alvin Bragg for what he calls weaponizing his office, but he also took a swipe at Trump.
So I genuinely think that, like, this man will never be president. Look at how, like, doesn't he just strike you as boring? He hasn't even said anything yet. I'm bored.
What goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to
So this is him taking a shot at Trump, and it's extremely boring.
is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction,
Okay, we just heard this.
and he chooses example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office.
DeSantis referred to Bragg and others.
I guess that is the most exciting thing he said, because it was in the Globe and Mail article, is in this video. That's the level of riz that we're gonna get out of Ron DeSantis and Mike Pence. They're basically cowards. They're Trump loyalists who at the same time are gunning for his position. It's really pathetic to see them try to thread that needle and both grovel at Trump's feet and try to appeal to the Republican establishment and Donald Trump's base all at the same time. They're just truly pathetic men. I don't think either of them stand a chance at beating Joe Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee ends up being. But, you know, we've been wrong before. Do I trust Fox? Breaking: Fox News reporting that law enforcement doesn't expect Trump to be arraigned until next week. It looks like Trump lied about getting arrested on Tuesday just to get people to protest his arrest. Funny thing is, there's virtually no substantial protesting other than the people whining on Twitter. Okay, so I mean, I don't know who Ed Krasenstein is. Are they trustworthy? Anti-Trump, independent journalist, Web3 futurist. So we don't really know if this is a good source. But honestly, if I had to put my money on it, I would guess that we're not going to see a Trump arrest today, and we'll be lucky if we see one next week. Wow, look at this. Let's look at this for a moment. Breaking: Donald Trump has been arrested in #Manhattan this morning. This is very clearly AI generated. This would be great. Oh my God. Can you imagine? This is real. This is real. Yes. Get him. Get him. Except this isn't real, sadly.